I'm Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Podcast. Tonight's podcast is 7 ways why answers and solutions are museum mind prisons. I see through the spirit forensic awareness that answers and solutions are never liberators, they're artifacts. They freeze reality into fixed shapes, trapping perception inside yesterday's conclusions. That's the moment I reach for an answer. I step into the museum of my mind where everything is labeled, limited, and already decided. Because once you go to the mind, it's going to what it feels and represents, and the repetitions that are within it. Answers never open doors; they archive them. I rise with warrior wise perceptions because answers and solutions are built to control, never awaken. They tell me what to think instead of how or what to perceive or what to question. And that's something I really have awakened to. You got to listen and question everything to rise out of the yesterday. They keep me obedient to inherited logic instead of sovereign to my awareness. They lock me into predictable pathways, repeating old conclusions instead of sensing fresh, fresh possibilities. Museum mind prisons never need bars; they use certainty. I stand in front on the frontier frequencies of clarity, understanding, aware that answers and solutions are designed for continuity, never liberation. They preserve the past, reinforce the familiar, and protect the known, but the spirit, frequency, intelligence is alive, fluid, and unrepeatable. It will never be contained in museum logic. It cannot be controlled by yesterday's conclusions. It rises only in the here and now landscape where awareness breathes instead of obeys. The sovereign authenticity. Answers preserve the archive, solutions preserve the cage. Awareness preserves the frontier as answers and solutions are prisons because answers freeze reality into yesterday's shapes. How do you witness your day when you're trying to go forward and you think you found a solution, but it really mirrors what you did yesterday? And I have a pet fly tonight, and I usually don't have them. But anyway, so we're going to have a pet fly enjoying this tonight. But, you, but the answer is a cage disguised as clarity. It locks perception into fixed conclusions and prevents awareness from sensing what is alive and awake to expand you forward today. Answers never liberate, they archive. They trap you inside the past certainty instead of the frontier's possibilities. Where do you see that in your life? Because once something out of the ordinary happens, first thing you're trying to find and use is something you've already used to move forward in life. And I've witnessed that in my life. And I really have awakened to that because we're always trying to find the same answer or solutions we used yesterday instead of the ones that are fresh. Solutions are built from old frameworks, old fears, old assumptions. They tell you how to think instead of letting you perceive directly and question and listen to what's going on here and now. Answers and solutions never get to present moment because the mind never gets to present moment. They keep you loyal to the museum mind pathways, repeating yesterday's patterns instead of rising of sovereign awareness. And see, that's something else I'll share. As I took the word self out of my life, use the word sovereign because it's more potent for me to move forward. Solutions never solve, they domesticate. Because answers and solutions replace awareness with control. The moment you grab an answer, you surrender your frontier wisdom to yesterday. The moment you cling to a solution, you abandon your sovereign perception. Answers and solutions are prisons because they trade your living awareness for dead certainty. And that's something I've witnessed in my life. Answers and solutions are prisons because they trade your living awareness for dead certainty. They keep you controlled, predictable, and archived. Answers and solutions never rise me out of yesterday because that's where they come from. Everything in the mind is from yesterday. Why answers and solutions never rise me out of yesterday because answers are built from yesterday's perceptions, never today's awareness. And that's something I'll share with you. I've awakened to. You want to sense the freshness of today to rise out of yesterday. Every answer is a snapshot of how someone saw reality before you. That's what education is it's a snapshot of how somebody saw life before you yesterday. It carries their fears, their limits, and their assumptions. That's the same with the punctuated book. It carries the author's fears, limits, and assumptions. Unpunctuated books, I write unpunctuated. Unpunctuated books are free flowing punctuation. Your breath is your punctuation. When I rely on answers, I inherit their past instead of sensing my present moment prowess. Answers never rise me, they return me to yesterday. Answers never rise me, they return me. Boy, that's a very fascinating thing, isn't it? Because solutions recycle old logic and keep me loyal to the past. Solutions come from frameworks designed to maintain continuity, never rise of sovereignty. They solve problems inside yesterday's mindset using yesterday's rules and knowledge. They keep me predictable, manageable, and archived in what I've already done and already think I know. Solutions never liberate, they domesticate. That's a true statement. Because answers and solutions replace frontier sensing with museum certainty. The moment I cling to an answer, I stop perceiving. The moment I cling to a solution, I stop awakening. Answers and solutions are prisons because they trade my living awareness for dead certainty. They keep me repeating yesterday instead of rising into my frontier adventures of now. Why answers and solutions embed outdated mindsets. And that's where answers and solutions and stubbornness is outdated mindsets. Because answers are built from yesterday's perception, not never today's awareness. Every answer carries the fingerprints of the past, old fears, old assumptions, and old logic. When I rely on answers, I inherit someone else's outdated worldviews, viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs. Answers embed yesterday into today and call it wisdom. That is something I have done, and I'm awakened and aware of now to rise out of it. Because solutions recycle the same frameworks that created the problem. Solutions come from the mindset that shaped the limitation. They solve inside the cage instead of dissolving the cage. Cage is your thinking and your mind and all that stuff. They keep me thinking in familiar patterns, repeating old mental architecture instead of rising onto the sovereign clarity of my inspiration, uh, aware, sensing my life's liberating foresight. Solutions never evolve, they reinforce. Because answers and solutions replace living awareness with museum logic. And the mind is a museum because everything in the mind is from yesterday. The moment I cling to an answer, I stop perceiving. The moment I cling to a solution, I stop awakening. Answers and solutions embed outdated mindsets because they trade my frontier foresight for archive certainty. They keep me loyal to yesterday instead of liberated of my now. Something else I've done, I'm never in anything, I'm of it. When you're of it, you're above it. When you're in it, well, you're in it. But if you're of it, it, it slows the mind down and lets the mind float away. While answers and solutions come from thinking, knowing, viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs. Because answers are built from mental archives. And that's something else. Uh, Mental health never lets you out of yesterday. And I'm going to do a podcast on mental health. You want to be awakened and aware of your inspirations. Never living awareness. Knowing pulls from the past conclusions. Viewpoints pull from inherited lenses. Opinions pull from emotional residue. Beliefs pull from cultural programming. Answers and solutions are born from these sources and they're museum artifacts. Everything in the mind is a museum artifact. I call it an artifallacy, but it's an artifact. They preserve yesterday instead of sensing the frontier of here and now. Everything is here. Back there, it's got just a bunch of rat-a-tat crap. Because thinking and knowing recycle old logic instead of awakening new perceptions. Thinking uses familiar paths. Knowing uses pre-approved conclusions. Viewpoints are conditioned angles. Opinions use reactive narratives. Beliefs are inherited scripts. Because of these, by rising out of these, you rise of sovereign clarity, and you let go of them that keep repeating the same mental architecture that created limitations from yesterday. Viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs are cages disguised as intelligence, and intelligence never gets to the moment. Wisdom does. Viewpoint is a fence. Opinion is a reflex. Beliefs are a boundary. Answers and solutions built from these are prisons because they lock perception into fixed shapes. They keep you loyal to yesterday's mindset instead of liberated of the now frequency frontier within you. The sovereign authenticity. Thinking preserves the past. Knowing preserves the script. Viewpoints preserve the cage. Opinions preserve the reflex. Beliefs preserve the museum. While answers and solutions never get me out of my past museum. Because answers are built from yesterday's perceptions. Every answer is a relic of how someone saw reality before now. Same as education, that's what somebody else saw before now. It carries their limits, their fears, and their assumptions. When I reach for answers, I step into the museum of old conclusions instead of rising onto the frontier of fresh awareness and fresh adventures. The word fresh over the word new, it moves you forward. And just say now, what are new, what do you feel? Fresh, you feel a little aliveness right here. I do anyway. Answers never free me, they return me. And see, that's the thing about answers and solutions. The repetitions from the past, and mindset is from the past. You got to be open to interpret the now to move forward. Because solutions solve problems inside the same mindset that created them. Solutions solve same problems inside the same mindsets that created them. Solutions are constructed from yesterday's logic, yesterday's framework, and yesterday's beliefs. They keep me thinking inside the cage of rage instead of dissolving the cage with my rebellious revelations. Solutions never evolve me. They reinforce the architecture of the past museum that is very forthright in my life today. Because answers and solution replaces sovereign sensing with archived certainty. The moment I cling to an answer, I stop perceiving the fresh foresight of the moment. The moment I cling to a solution, I stop awakening. Answers and solutions trap me in the museum mind certainty, trading my frontier wisdom for dead conclusions. They keep me repeating yesterday instead of rising onto my onto my now frequency landscape. Why, this is my favorite one. Why are answers and solutions why answers and solutions are taxidermied thoughts? Taxidermy is somebody that stuffs dead animals. Because answers are taxidermied thoughts because answers are dead ideas dressed up as guidance. Answers are dead ideas dressed up as guidance. They are yesterday's perceptions involved in certainty. Why I reach for answers, I grab a corpse instead of never a compass. Answers never rise me out of anything. They return me to the museum of old thinking. I can do that. I've done that. Because solutions are obedient scripts, socially obedient scripts. Solutions are engineered to keep me inside the same mindset that created the limitation. Wow. They solve nothing, they maintain the cage of rage and keep me doing the same. Every solution is a command. So stay predictable, stay controllable, stay archived. Solutions don't solutions never liberate, they domesticate. Because answers and solutions are weapons of yesterday. They come from thinking, knowing, viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs, all museum mind relics. Excuse me. They lock perception into fixed shapes and call it the truth. The truth is from the past. The truth never gets to now because everything in the truth is your viewpoints, opinions, beliefs, everything you think. Nowality is about what you feel and witness right here, what you sense. If you take the word feel, start using the word sense. I sense the sovereignty of me. See how that is? Why solutions are taxidermy thoughts. Because solutions are dead logics preserved as guidance. A solution is yesterday's thinking, stuffed, mounted, and labeled correct. It carries no breath, no frontier, no now frequency. It is a mental carcass pretending to be clarity. Solutions never evolve, they preserve. The exact mindsets that created the problem. They're the exact mindset that created the problem. Because solutions trap you in the shape of old frameworks. A taxidermy solutions can never adapt, shift, or rise of the present moment. It locks perception into the rigid form of old reasoning. How's the world stuck in the rigid form of old thinking, old reasoning, and old everything today? I witness it big time. When I rely on solutions, I inherit the architecture of someone else's outdated mindsets. I want to repeat that. When I rely on solutions, I inherit the architecture of someone else's outdated mindset. Solutions never liberate, they confine. Because solutions replace sovereign sensing with museum certainty. And the mind is a museum. If you can open up to at least adhere to it, you can move forward. A solution offers certainty, never awareness. They offer, see, that's the thing. We try to do answers and solutions. We want to make it a certainty. And it's only a pathway of enlightenment. Because if you open everything up to awakenings and a pathway of enlightenment, show from the on to your trails of triumph, you rise, shine, and energize you. A solution offers certainty, never awareness. It gives a fixed instruction instead of a fresh perception. It trades my frontier and intelligence for archive logic. Solutions never awaken. They anesthetize. They're an anesthetic. They put you to sleep. Why the world is now stuck in my comfort zone programming, because the world mirrors my familiar perception loops. The world reflects the exact patterns I keep rehearsing. My comfort zone programming becomes a lens through which I interpret everything. When I stay inside familiar thinking, the world arranges itself to match that familiarity. The world isn't stuck. My perception is repeating my answers and solutions and my whatever. As my comfort zone filters out anything that threatens old identity, my comfort zone programming edits reality. It hides it hides frontier signals and amplifies familiar ones. It keeps me seeing what I already believe, expecting what I already fear, and interpreting that what I already know. When you use the word think and know, you shut down anything in the present moment. Think and know shut off listening, intuition, imagination, innovation, and all that stuff. The world looks stuck because my filters refuse to update. Listening is always update, moving forward. Because my comfort zone trains the world to behave like yesterday. Because my comfort zone trains me in the world to behave like yesterday. Every thought, expectation, and reflex I repeat becomes a command to the world to show me more of this. The comfort zone programming is a broadcast, and the world responds to my broadcast. When I stay in old patterns, the world becomes a museum of my past. Do you witness that in your life? I do in mine. The world isn't trapping me. I'm instructing myself to repeat me. The sovereign audacity. The world mirrors my programming. The world echoes my comfort zone, and the world repeats my past until I rise beyond it. Why I was swirling in my answers and solutions, and my solutions programming, because answers kept me trapped in yesterday's mental architecture. And that's what a lot of mental health and everything, it keeps you stuck in yesterday's mental architecture. And I'm going to do a podcast on that. Answers are museum logic, dead conclusions pretending to be clarity. When I relied on them, I kept circling the same old perceptions, the same old fears, same old assumptions, same old everything. I wasn't swirling because life was complex. I was swirling because answers were anchoring me to my past. Anchors and solutions anchor you to your past. And if you look at the world, you can witness that. Solutions train my mind to repeat old frameworks. Solutions never liberate, they reinforce. They solve problems inside the same mindset that created them. Every time I reached for a solution, I re entered the cage of familiar logic. I wasn't stuck, I was looping inside the architecture of my own programming. Because answers and solutions replace sovereign sensing with mental autopilot. Answers told me what to think, solutions told me how to act. Both kept me perceiving the frontier directly. My swirling wasn't chaos, it was predictable spin of the mind that binded me into obeying its own outdated scripts. The sovereign veracity. I wasn't swirling in confusion, I was swirling in programming. And the moment I stopped obeying answers and solutions, the spin stopped and my frontier of adventures opened. Why energizing liberation, energetic listening, maverick questions, politically incorrect inspirations dissolve my worn out answers and solutions because energizing liberation breaks the museum mind spell. Energizing liberation snaps the trance of old answers and solutions. It dissolves the state logic loops because that kept me swirling in yesterday's thinking. Liberation pulls me out of the archives and onto the frontier of inspiration that is alive, playful, and unpredictable. My worn out answers can never survive my liberation voltage. They crumble, and my entertaining inspiration rush in and color my world with my sculpting savvy, as energetic listening bypasses thinking and knowing. And energetic listening is perception without filters. No viewpoints, no opinions, and no beliefs. It hears the frontier, never the past. It dissolves answers and solutions because they cannot compete with the fresh sovereign awareness I am expressing to the world and to me. When I listen energetically, inspiration becomes effortless and my adventurous ardor ignites like wildfire. Because maverick questions and politically incorrect inspiration detonate my the comfort zone cages and open my rambling rage and Cajun craziness as my maverick questions shatter the obedience, scripts, answers, and solutions. Politically incorrect inspiration destroys the polite, predictable thinking that kept me domesticated. Together, they blow open the doors of my comfort zone programming and unleash my wild, sovereign curiosity to ride the waves of brave, boldly realized, appreciating visionary energy. This is where my entertaining inspirations erupt, my adventurous ardor rises to soar beyond anything I've ever known, to open up my trend setting adventurous ardor. The sovereign veracity, energizing liberation dissolves the archives. Energetic listening awakens the frontier. Maverick questions ignite the rise. Politically incorrect inspiration unleashes my soaring savvy to enjoy life. While answers and solutions are outdated knowledge, block intuition, inspiration, and imagination. Because answers freeze perception into yesterday's knowing. Answers are mental fossils, conclusions formed in a moment that no longer exists. They lock me into an old interpretations, old logic, and old identity. Intuition can never breathe in a room filled with yesterday's certainty. Inspiration can never rise when the mind insists it already knows. Imagination can never ignite when answers demand obedience. Because solutions force me to think inside old frameworks. Solutions are built from the same mindset that created limitation. They recycle familiar logic, familiar fears, and familiar assumptions. Intuition gets muted because solutions tell me what to do. You can never talk, listen, talk, and know and listen for inspiration and intuition. Inspiration gets blocked because solutions tell me what's correct. Imagination gets caged because solutions insist on predictable outcomes. Because answers and solutions replace the frontier sensing with museum logic. Intuition is a frontier signal, alive, fluid, and unrepeatable and unborrowed. Inspiration is a spark, unpredictable, sovereign, and wild. Imagination is a portal, limitless, boundary breaking, and untamed artistry. Answers and solutions shut all three down by forcing me into archive certainty. They are outdated. They are outdated knowledge because they disconnect from the living wisdom rising of my now. The sovereign veracity. Answers block intuition. Solutions block inspiration. Both block imagination. Only awareness opens the frontier, while my passive enlightenment and accomplished outcome destroy answers and solutions. Arise with a spirit forensic awareness, because enlightenment is never built from answers, it is crafted from direct perception. Answers and solutions are museum artifacts of old thinking. As enlightenment is a frontier force, every time I awaken, every time I accomplish something through sovereign clarity, I burn through the outdated logic that answers depend on. Enlightenment destroys answers because awareness replaces certainty. I stand in warrior wise perceptions, knowing that accomplished outcomes come from intuition, inspiration, imagination, never from recycled solutions. Solutions are cages disguised as guidance. They keep me obedient to yesterday's frameworks as my accomplished outcomes rise from my sensing my frontier foresight, never obeying the archives. Breakthrough. Every breakthrough I create dissolves the need for solutions because I rise beyond the mindset that created the problem. See, that's the thing. Solutions and answers never rise you above the what created the problem. I move through frontier frequency clarity where answers can never survive. And my enlightenment is a live, fluid, sovereign as solutions are rigid, predictable archive. My path destroys answers and solutions because it operates at a frequency they can never reach. Enlightenment doesn't use answers, it replaces them with accomplished outcomes. Never rely on solutions because they transcend them into here and now. Veracity, the sovereign veracity. Enlightenment dissolves answers, accomplished outcomes dissolve solutions, awareness destroys the archives, opening you up to feel alive and energized to expand through life with the greatest of ease. And I want to thank you. I am Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Hypno Acuity, and may your life be a free flowing, healthy, wealthy experience. And good night.